Hello, I'm Paul Pluta and welcome to Paul Pluta Prestige. Today I'd like to do a bit of a collection review on how my collection has matured over the last couple of years. And this first photograph on the screen you see here, these are 4 pieces I owned. There was a Rolex Datejust 16233 with diamond dial. There was a Breitling Navi timer. That's the old Navi timer. That's the way the eyes are arranged with the date at the 3 position. There's also a Omega Speedmaster Man on the Moon chronograph. And there's also a Cartier two-tone Santos with moon phase. And I owned these pieces a number of years ago. And it was just a nice, simple 4-piece collection. Some varied brands there. I had Rolex, I had Breitling, I had Omega, I had Cartier, 4 good brands, and they serve different purposes. And I gotta say, you know, life changes, and I added to the collection. I was never that happy with the Cartier, even though I love the Santos moon phase. It really didn't ever make me that happy, and I suppose it's one of these things. Quartz is sort of so passé now, it's not funny. But this was a very expensive watch. These came out by Cartier about 1990, and they were a limited edition with the moon phase. They had the quartz movement, and they were damn expensive. And I always loved the moon phase on the dial there. And I got to say, they had a very interesting... They had a nice little way to indicate the date, the third hand that went around there for the date. And this was a good piece, but it just never made me that happy. I did love the Breitling. I remember wearing the Breitling many times, and I had that very noisy 7750 Valjoux movement in it. But it was just such a nice piece, the highly polished steel. It was a great piece that I really enjoyed. It just had an aura to it that I was really satisfied with. And unfortunately I sold it because I bought a very expensive Patek, my white gold Patek, so I had to rationalize the collection. The same can be said for my two-tone Datejust with the diamond dial. That was a great piece. I loved it, and it was a sapphire glass model, and it really, for an everyday work watch, it really was fantastic. A subtle class to it with the diamonds. It wasn't a champagne dial, it was the silvery dial, and it was very very discreet, and I thought it was a beautiful piece. I also had the Omega, and that was okay. It was cool to have the Omega, and I had 2 different types of bracelets, the 1171 bracelet and the newer bracelet. And yeah, that was my first Omega Speedmaster I ever owned there. Okay, moving on to the next photo of my collection, and this photo here was taken about 18 months ago, and it's when my collection was sort of at its peak. When I say peak, I had a number of pieces there. I had the Patek Philippe Calatrava, that's the white gold 5107. I had the Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso Grand Date, which was just gorgeous. I just acquired, my wife had just bought that for me. I had a Vacheron Constantin solid gold dress watch, ultra slim dress watch. That was reference 6405, which I loved. I had an ultra slim AP dress watch, which was just a 2-hand solid gold piece. I just, you know, it just fitted into the collection. I had a Cartier Panther in quartz. It was a steel piece, and it was just nice. I've always liked the Panther. It just fitted in nicely. I had a 2-tone Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, and it was quartz as well. Had a beautiful grey waffle dial, and it was my first AP Royal Oak I've owned, and it was a nice piece. And my sports, I had 2 sports pieces. The Explorer 2 Rolex and a Omega Speedmaster Man on the Moon, and that was my collection at the time there. And I thought, wow, that was just so happy with that collection. And what happened was, on the ladies' side, my wife had a Patek 24 in steel with diamonds. She had a Rolex Datejust 69174. She had 2 Cartier 18 karat, a Benoit and a Diablo. So that was our beautiful box of treasures. And what happened was, I sold the Vacheron for really good money. I sold it for $4,800, and the rest of the collection sort of fell apart. I didn't have a desire for the Ultra Slim AP. I didn't have the desire for the Omega. I started, questioning my collection, and I was regrouping. And it's quite strange, but yes, I regrouped, and this is the next photo which you see on the screen here. And this next photo here was my box of tricks, where I had this is all the men's white metal pieces, and I had the AP Royal Oak in steel with the automatic machine. I had the Patek Calatrava 5107 in white gold. I had the Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso Grand Date. I had the Omega Speedmaster Man on the Moon. This was another one I'd bought. The Rolex Explorer 2, and also the Breitling Super Ocean. And I gotta say, I had this collection here, and I recently looked back at this photo and thought, oh geez, didn't I have a nice box of tricks there? And I kind of felt sad that I'd sold some of the pieces off. The bottom row was completely gone. I'd sold the Breitling Super Ocean, the Rolex Explorer 2, and the Omega Speedmaster. And I replaced some of the pieces, but there's still a slot missing. And it's quite interesting. My collection is a work in progress, but I look at this photo, which is only a couple months ago that I had all these pieces, and I think I may have cut too deep in the sell-off. But yeah, I just felt the Breitling Super Ocean, I felt it was too heavy. It had a Valjoux movement, which I find very terminal, and I just that made me get rid of that piece. The Explorer 2, well, I'll come back to that. What happened was, I sold the Omega Speedmaster. The guy originally bought the Rolex, and then he changed his mind a day later, so I quickly flicked the Omega, which I was happy to do, but in hindsight I really did love that Omega. And then I recently flicked the Explorer 2, which I felt was sort of the least prestigious piece in my current collection. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, and I think I may have sold too many off. This photo here just looked like such a balanced set, and this is sometimes you don't appreciate what you had until you've sold it off, and that's what kind of makes it a bit strange there. But finally, what's the current collection like now? Well, at the moment it sits at 5 pieces. That's right. We have the 5107 white gold Calatrava Patek Philippe, which I do love. That's certainly a keeper. We've got a Patek 5035 annual calendar dress watch, which is absolute dream piece of me, a dream piece for me to own. I bought it for my 40th birthday. Absolute dream piece, a complication I've always wanted, the annual calendar. I've still got my Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso Grand Date, a beautiful piece that my wife gave me to celebrate my 40th. You might say, geez, you've got a few pieces to celebrate your 40th. Well, yes, I think it's a big birthday, and I found it hard to accept being 40, and these watches have eased me into it. As I said, I love being 40. when you own a 5035 on your wrist. The other two pieces I have a Breguet Type 20 Transatlantic, which I absolutely adore. I think it's a cool piece. It's a chronograph I've always wanted, and I really am happy I've got the Breguet. And finally I've got the AP Royal Oak, and it's let me down a bit. I've had it in for repair. I'm gonna get it back, and it's a 14790 ST. My good friend Descartes recently bought a 15300, and I kind of think maybe I should have gone for a 15300, but in the meantime, the 14790 ST is quite okay. So it's not the end of the world there. So yep, that's my current 5 pieces, and the 6th piece. Well, I think it's a good number to have 6 pieces. I'm thinking, as a temporary stopgap, I've got 3 complicated pieces. That's the 5035, the Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso Grand Date, and also the Breguet. And I've got 2 simpler pieces, the 5107 Patek and the AP Royal Oak. How about putting in a steel Datejust with a white gold bezel, like a 16234? So I'm that's possibly a 6 piece I could add, which could also be a great everyday banger to wear. So I'm going to see how I feel about that. So that's a possibility. I'm Paul Pluta from Paul Pluta Prestige, and I hope you've enjoyed this insight into my collection over the last couple of years. Thank you very much.